Good morning, everyone. I'm Asha Nayaswami. We're continuing our shelter in place fireside chats. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, Friend, Beloved God, Jesus Christ, Babaji Krishna, Lahiri Mahashaya, Swami Sri Yukteswar, Beloved Master, Paramhansa Yogananda, Saints of all religions, dearest friend Swami Kriyanada, humbly we bow at thy feet. We open our hearts to your loving presence, our minds to your wise guidance, and our souls to thy bliss. Guide us and bless us, that we may be inspired to act always in accordance with thy will. Om. Peace. Amen. All right, friends. Today we are continuing with the vows for the Nayaswami order. And yesterday we went through the pilgrims' vow of intention. We finished going through it. And now we're at the vow of Brahmacharya. The pilgrim's vow, as I've been explaining, is available to anyone, and there's no external requirement in terms of anything that is mandated. The pilgrim simply decides how he's going to live up to the attitudes that are described in the vow. Brahmacharya is well understood to be a stage of celibacy and singleness. It's being a monk or a nun in the most traditional sense. There's no organization necessarily around it at all, and in that sense it differs from Anglican nuns or Catholic nuns or Buddhist nuns, although actually I take that back because I don't know how the Buddhist system works. So when one takes a vow of Brahmacharya, one has made the resolution to live a celibate life, to not enter into the householder stage, but simply live as a single. And ultimately, the Brahmacharya vow and the Tyagi, which we'll talk about tomorrow, are the novice vows for becoming a Nayaswami. So one should take the Brahmacharya vow if one feels inclined, with the idea that what I'm doing is I'm taking the first step to becoming a Nayaswami. In other words, it's not to be taken lightly. It's like one can see oneself taking the final vow of complete renunciation. Now, of course, the very nature of it is that it is conditional. And the opportunity, obviously, is to give people time to feel whether or not this lifestyle really suits you before you've committed yourself that further step. And above all, God reads the heart. If our intention is pure and circumstances shift us, the discipline required to hold to a vow like this is in and of itself of tremendous spiritual benefit. So even if it proves to be only a stage of life rather than a lifelong commitment, it's well worth doing if you feel sincerely inspired to go in that direction. This, of course, is a challenging issue for younger people, especially when sexuality is much more of a drive, and even the longing for a mate may not yet be pacified by other experiences. With my first 10 years at Ananda, Swami never gave us any kind of vows, but I was a brahmacharini living according to the traditional method. And even though I went into a long period of being a householder, from which I have also emerged, it was wonderful. And it came, and I've talked about this in other contexts, but it's worth saying here. It came because it felt freer to be a brahmacharini than it did not to be. That's an important point, because these vows are not meant to feel like we're confining and limiting our options. we feel, ideally, it feels like we are escaping from limiting conditions rather than assuming them. Swami wrote somewhere, "This then to me is renunciation, to kick aside all limitation and embrace infinity." So when you cast aside something small for something greater, you don't feel confined as a consequence. So this is the subtleties that I've spent days explaining of how Swami's trying to explain renunciation. But when we come to the Brahmacharya vow, which is so traditional, we have to think more consciously as to how to reorient this toward this new way of thinking. The Tyagi vow and the pilgrim vow are more self-evident, but the Brahmacharya vow is really quite different because we're gathering our energy. We're not depriving ourselves of energy, and we're freeing ourselves from small considerations so that we can embrace larger ones. So the Renunciate Vow of Brahmacharya. I understand and fully accept that the true purpose of life for all human beings is to seek God. So now, in the Pilgrim Vow, I understand and intend from now on to live by my understanding. This is much simpler. I understand and fully accept. There's no, I'm going to try. This is just, I see it. This is it. And fully accept that the true purpose of life for all human beings is to seek God. And that is so simple, and that's been articulated in countless ways and is articulated in countless ways all through the teachings. But when you actually put it now in terms of a vow, I understand and fully accept that the purpose of life for me and for everyone, all human beings, is to seek God. So from now on, this is my line, and every desire, every impulse, every possible path that I could take has to be weighed in terms of my full acceptance of this simple fact that there's only one purpose in my life, and that is to seek God. Everything has to be held up to that mirror. Will this help me in my search for God? Because I have fully accepted that's the only purpose of my life. Now, renunciation in the New Age is a very broad pathway in terms of being able to bring spiritual intention into a very creative, expansive, rich, and interesting life. We don't just have to squeeze ourselves down into this image of what it means, to be a monk or a nun like this in the smallest sense. But that's not a license to change the fundamental teaching. And that's what we have to understand. We are very orthodox, exceedingly orthodox, and actually intensely conservative. When I say we, I mean the Nayaswami order. But it is self-determined according to the unique path. And that's where the difference lies. In pursuit of that goal, I offer my own life unreservedly to seeking my divine source. Swami uses words like unreservedly, which is a big word. In the Pilgrim Vow, there was the phrase, I will endeavor resolutely. When you look up the meaning of endeavor resolutely, it means try hard. But endeavor resolutely, it has a poetry to it, it has a gravitas to it, it has the necessity to really focus in on what each of those words mean, whereas try hard, I don't know, you could try hard to find the pair of shoes that matches your dress. But you wouldn't necessarily talk about, I will endeavor resolutely to do something trivial. It has gravitas, which is the word. So Swami uses the word here also because Swami is very conscious of how vibration and rhythm affect us deeply on a subconscious level. Now, these vows in the Nayaswami order, when we take our vow of Kriya to practice Kriya, we renew that on a regular basis if we wish to. The discipleship vow we renew. But these vows we take only once. That doesn't mean, however, that the vow should slip from one's consciousness. At the beginning of this series, I mentioned that I have both memorized. I have memorized, and also I have printed in several places where I'll see it every day, the Nayaswami vow of final renunciation, because those words mean a lot to me. And repeating them over and over, they go deeper and deeper into my subconscious. So Swami wrote these vows so that they will, in and of themselves, the vibrations of the word have power. I offer my own life unreservedly. I hold nothing back. I give everything without reservation. Reservation is can be just like even the little bit of hesitation. Everything, Lord, except this. And I'm not just talking about a physical thing or a little bit of money or a comfortable bed or your own private room. I'm talking about every attitude, every attachment, every this is what I must have to be happy. I offer my life unreservedly to seeking my divine source. So we've already said, I fully accept that the purpose of life is to seek God. In pursuit of that goal, in keeping with what I have just declared, I offer myself unreservedly into this path of seeking my divine source. And then here Swami uses the word divine source. In this case, he used simply the word God, divine source, my point of origin. This is also implied that this is an inner quest, the source of my own being. I'm following the Amazon through the jungle to its point of origin. I'm following this breath of life that is so deep in me. I mean, this takes us to Kriya. This takes us to pranayams. This takes us to devotion. This takes us to discrimination. Without reservation, I offer my life to finding out who I really am. And once again, even just in these very words, Swami is explaining to us what this is about. I'm not trying to be obedient to my superior or to memorize all the rules. I'm going to find out what my point of origin is, unique. Of course, we're all children of God, but each of us has a unique point of origin. I will retain no ego-gratifying goal in my life, but will strive always and above all to please God. I really love that phrase, ego-gratifying. And again, what Swami is laying down here is he's laying down a template. So we can ask ourselves, am I really adhering to this vow? Because, of course, the final words of this vow are that we realize God, but how can we tell? Ego-gratifying goal. So it's just like a really interesting phrase that you can, I was joking with a friend recently, there's certain truths we should just tattoo on our arm so they will just always look at them. I actually have a friend who has a certain Gita verse literally tattooed on his arm so he can look at it and it reminds him, it's a very important verse, of course. So some of these things we want to tattoo on our arms, figuratively, not literally. No, I will retain no ego-gratifying goals. It doesn't even say experiences because sometimes we're going to be gratifying our ego, but the intention of my life will not be to gratify my ego because sometimes our karma, we can't help ourselves. We get sucked into something and it's only afterwards. I was involved in a project once where sequentially different people presented an event and we took turns. And when it was my turn, truly, I wanted to be more successful than the others. I wasn't clear-minded or gross enough to say that out loud to myself, but I did. But I made terrible decisions, and as a result, I did not succeed in gratifying my ego. This was fortunately, I can say, in the early 70s. And Swami said to me something I've really loved ever since. Oh, Asha, whenever your ego gets involved, you make terrible decisions. And many, many times in the decades since then, oh, yeah, my ego got involved and I made a terrible decision. So it's going to happen. So that's why he says no ego gratifying goal. It's never my intention, even though it may be my action. A phrase that I enjoy because it helps me. There are many actions that we commit. like when your ego gets involved, you make terrible decisions. And I've committed some terrible decisions, acted on some terrible decisions. And then there are those actions that I am committed to. And I'm not committed to getting my ego involved in making terrible decisions, even though I commit that action sometimes. So it's a very simple way to sort of keep ourselves, to be able to navigate through the inevitable errors that we make and understand the difference. And so even if I have committed that, I'm not committed to it, because I will, the true purpose of my life, and I will retain no ego gratifying goal. And that just goes in lots of directions. Why do I want to accomplish this? Why do I want to accomplish that? Now, once again, we have to work with these things, because the old school of renunciation was, well, to avoid any ego gratifying goal, I'll just never do anything. I'll just totally suppress my ego and then I'm safe. But suppression is not transcendence. Suppression just means the energy is held down. It's not transmuted. So in New Age renunciation, we still must overcome the ego. It's not like now we have license to be egoic, which is how some people wrongly interpret the energy of Dwapara. We have no more right to be egoic in Dwapara Yuga than we did in Kali Yuga. Right, meaning it's no more right for our ultimate happiness. But it could happen, because golly shucks, it will happen. That's just the way it is. But it's not my goal. So if I've said this to myself many times, I will retain no ego gratifying goal. Oh, I committed ego gratifying actions, but that's not my goal. And I just pull back and put myself back on course. I will look upon life as God's dream drama and also dream entertainment. I love that Swami put it that way, because it makes you smile. These are the kinds of words that Master used all the time. I will look upon life as God's dream drama and also dream entertainment. And just all of a sudden, the whole seriousness of the whole thing, I will retain no ego gratifying goals in my life. I will look upon life as God's dream drama and dream entertainment. And so when it gets very dramatic, which it does, oh, this is the part of the play. One of my friends has this charming habit sometimes of impersonalizing a situation by writing a photo caption, essentially, or writing a little synopsis. And I say it to myself, this is the part where the heroine makes some bad decisions. This is the part of God's dream drama where for a little while we become very frightened. Just like this is what's happening, dream entertainment. This is the part where the heroine forgets that it's a dream entertainment, But you see, it makes you laugh. And as soon as it makes you laugh, your energy goes up. It's very hard. Well, it's very hard to be dramatic and sad at the same time that you're laughing. You just can't. One changes the other into something else. Once I found out that if you breathe deeply and regularly, you can't weep. So when I was falling into weeping, which I was quite inclined to do, when I was the dream drama queen, and I could breathe regularly and deeply by walking and so on, walking vigorously. But then I stopped crying and I wanted to cry. So of course I stopped walking so that I could cry, because it wasn't entertaining to me at that particular moment. But it is entertaining. Entertaining in the sense that it's all engrossing, and it teaches us that there's only one goal in life, and that we really don't want any ego gratifying goals. And then it says, I will accept as His gift whatever comes to me in life. There's no equivocation here. I will look upon life as God's dream drama and dream entertainment. I will accept as His gift whatever comes to me in life. I mean, just actually visualize Master's walking up to you. He says, here, my child, here's a special present for you. And you open it up and all your worst nightmares are being expressed. But it was handed to you, with just all this love. All this love from Divine Mother. Sweetheart, I got you something special for your birthday. It's really going to entertain you. And you open it up and oh my God, look at the script. Script is just like, oh, nothing I would have written for myself because I didn't have the courage to write it for myself. Or in many cases, I didn't have the deep insight to realize how much I needed this. That's been, my experience for the most part is, wow, I didn't know I needed this. But the script of the dream entertainment and the dream drama just goes down into my chakras and finds karma there that I wasn't aware of. That just now has to be part of the story. And always, eventually, I'm deeply grateful. Now, the goal is to shorten that space, that eventually. How long is that eventually? How quickly can we see that this is what's going to happen? A yogi friend of mine, when diagnosed with cancer, he said it took him about 3 minutes. Oh! And then, well, if God sent it to me, why would I not be happy to receive it? 3 minutes is pretty fast. And my eventuallys tend to be a little longer than that, but they're shorter than they used to be. That's our goal, you see? Just shorten the eventually so that it gets to be, oh, what a gift. Whatever it might be, what a gift. Oh, a total loss of everything I thought I was going to get to keep. What a gift. What a gift. Because it's just a dream drama and a dream entertainment. Swami and Master have both spoken to us that the moment we die, it simply ceases to exist. I mean, it's a self-evident fact that when we die, nothing goes with us but our consciousness. But it's really quite something to think about that. And that as soon as we pass out of this body, everything that was associated to this body, it's just not true anymore. Our deep connection with other souls remains. But all of the details that seem so important, they just aren't. That's really marvelous to contemplate and a lifetime of practice. I renounce attachment to things, people, places, and all self-definitions. Well, that pretty much covers it. Things, people, places, and all self-definitions. So everything around me, everyone around me, and who I think of as me. I renounce. Renounce is a great word. I mean, renunciation, that's the word we're using. But I renounce. I love the phrase. I mean, just it's in the dream entertainment. In the privacy of one's own mind or the privacy of one's home, one should stand up on the tallest piece of furniture and renounce. Just give yourself the power. Be part of the drama, be part of the dream entertainment. I renounce all attachment to things, places, people, and even my self-definitions. I mean, that's what we want. And I'm putting a lot of dream drama into it and dream entertainment into it. But do it. Make it really deep. Swamiji he would make fun of attitudes that we might be inclined to have seriously, so that when they would creep in seriously, we would remember that they were funny. So if you make a big drama out of renouncing, then when you find yourself trying to creep back and grab them, you will be able to remember that I renounce these, and it will help. Except one. I renounce them all except one. I will define myself always as a child of God and will obey whatever guidance He gives me. I renounce everything, and what is left is this childlike spirit in which Divine Mother and I, in which Guru and I just walk through the world like little children walk with their parents. Wouldn't that be wonderful? That's why saints are so childlike and free, because they've renounced this whole big grown-up so-called story. When I was with Swami and another woman of my age, and we were in Hawaii, and maybe I've told this story in this context, I don't know. But we were going to go on a boat ride, and I had to call up and get tickets. This is when we were working on the path and we needed a break. I called up and she said, how many adults, how many children? I and my friend were 30. I almost said 1 adult, 2 children. But then I thought, if we tried to get him for half price, she would not really think that was fair. But honestly, I felt like I'm lying. 3 adults? There's no 3 adults here. There's 1 adult and there's 2 children. I mean, that's what's happening. But that's very freeing. Not childish, but just childlike. I have one self-definition. I am a child of God and will obey whatever guidance He gives me. Think how free that makes us. I offer to Thee, Lord, my life, my desires, my attachment, and the fruit of all my labors. I no longer exist. Well, in the Nayaswami vow, I no longer exist as a separate entity, but offer myself into Thy great ocean of awareness. I offer Thee my life, my desires, my attachments, and the fruit of all my labors. One wants to put it to melody, doesn't one? So you can just say it over and over. I offer to Thee my life, my desires, my attachments, and the fruit of all my labors. We still work. We still have to participate, but the fruit of everything is not, because I retain no ego gratifying desires. And this is just a dream drama and a dream entertainment. So I just give it all back to the dramatist who created the whole thing. None of it really belongs to me. I'm acting a part in your play. You're the director. You show me how it's done. And I'll just, you can have all the accolades. I'll just play my little part on this. I'll carry a spear in the chorus or whatever it is that you ask me to do. Then the vow ends just so simply. Bless me and strengthen me that I become ever more perfect in this my holy vow. Swamiji has in other places talked about how important the last words of a sentence are. So the last words of this whole vow is the phrase, my holy vow. Ever more perfect in this, my holy vow. So we also realize that even the capacity to follow this is not a matter of willpower. It's a matter of willingness power. And we have willingness power, then the grace of God will carry us. And it's impossible to fulfill these magnificent words just by willpower. Even that very act, sort of ties us to something. And so that's why it's in the New Age renunciation is not that we become more and more intense within ourselves. It's that we become less and less attached to ourselves. I retain no self-definition except as a child of God and to obey Thy will. So the end of it has to be that we're asking for God's help in doing this. That's the very nature of the vow, is that I will reason, I will act, but guide Thou my reason, will, and activity in everything. Don't imagine for a nanosecond that we're actually in charge of this. What we have to do is to attune ourselves, to open ourselves. Bless me and strengthen me, because we're embarking on a hero's journey. Bless me and strengthen me that I become ever more perfect in this my holy vow. Isn't that wonderful? God bless you all.